good morning, my dear ones. Oh my gosh, it's good to be with you. And I'm glad you're with me. And we're going to talk today about aging and the giant lies that are told to us about aging. I'm going to try to bring that all back into balance so that we understand exactly what that is. You know, when I grew up, and I'm sure it was true for you too, we thought that what happened is that you were born and that you just kept growing and growing and growing. And then somewhere around 30 or 40, it leveled out and it was level for a while. And then it started declining and declining, and you kept getting older and older and older and finally fell off of the planet. And so it was almost like you had an invisible line, a rope or a string hanging down from the top of your head, and you could just eventually pull it. So aging looked like this. That's not aging. That's artificial aging. If you're alive and on this planet, in this body, with a mind and an imagination, you have a purpose for being here. Great Spirit, nature itself, doesn't keep things around that no longer have a purpose. Out behind my house, we're right on the green belt, and there's beautiful forest. And there's a tall, tall, tall tree that when I was in the Forest Service, we would call a snag because it's dead. It's completely dead, but it's so gorgeous and it reaches so high up into the sky. And if it weren't valuable, if it didn't have a purpose, Mother Nature, Great Spirit, would move it on. Things that don't have purpose don't hang around. If you didn't have purpose, you wouldn't be hanging around. When you reach the age of 40, you say, oh my goodness, it's starting to be downhill. And then when you get to the age of 50, you say, certainly it's downhill now. I almost hate to say that I'm 50. And 60, oh no, because people are dying around 60, 65. And that if you get to 65 or 70, you count yourself pretty blessed, you're safe. And if you get to 80, oh my goodness, I'm living on borrowed time. That's all nonsense. That's all nonsense. If you're here, you have a reason for being here. Mark Twain said, age is a matter of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. But we mind, and it does matter. We need to think positively. And if we do think positively, we'll live longer. Canadians and Americans are living longer than ever before. Every day, listen, every day, 10,000 baby boomers turn 65. Every day, 10,000. So our attitudes about ourselves is primary. Our attitudes about ourselves are what make us either age gracefully or age by getting old and decrepit. So we just cannot buy the old age lie. We need to choose joy. Choose joy. There are so many choices. And if you're choosing doubt or sorrow or neglect or you're choosing doubt, self-doubt, I don't think I keep hearing this from people. Well, at my age, at my age, or people say to you, well, at your age, what do you expect? What is that nonsense about? What is that nonsense? Later in my talk, I'm going to be talking about some people that are doing and have done amazing things, regardless of the numerical, chronological years of their lives. We have the fastest growing age group of people over 100 years old. That's the fastest growing age group. Did you know that? On Good Morning America, they used to, every morning when Good Morning America came on, they would highlight somebody who just turned 100. They would take their cameras to some part of America where somebody had turned 100 and film them and say, oh my goodness, look, this person just turned 100. We've got dozens, maybe hundreds of people turning 100 every day now. It's no big deal. But the question isn't how long you live. The question is how deeply you live. Because, and if I've said this before, bear with me because it's worth repeating. If you were on a small boat and you came near an island And let's say that you're 100 yards from the island and you put the anchor down. And you say, I'm going to dive over the side and swim to the shore. And let's say that the distance between the boat and the shore is the length of your life. Now, some people will dive off the boat and swim directly to the island. And that's the length of their life, 100 yards. That's it. Some people will swim a little ways and say, I wonder what's below me. And they'll swim down a little ways and back up. Now they're still going to go 100 yards, but it's going to be a much longer 100 yards. And then they become really confident free divers and they dive even deeper. I'm talking about deeper into wisdom, deeper into taking those risks, deeper into stepping outside of our comfort zones. So the person goes even deeper and comes back up. Now look how much longer their life is. Or maybe I should say how much deeper their life is. And after a while coming back up, they wonder if they can go above the water, as going into their higher mind, as become spiritually competent, mindful of who they are as spirit. And then they go higher and deeper and higher and deeper. And while that first person just swam straight to the island and the length of their life was 100 yards, your life goes on seemingly forever. You're doing so many things. You're reaching so many areas of reality. It's amazing and it's wonderful and it's beautiful. And every day when you wake up is a new adventure. Every day is a new day and a new life. And you know, dementia is not a normal part of aging. And having a parent with Alzheimer's does not mean that somebody will develop that disease. In fact, we're kind of become phobic about Alzheimer's and about dementia, but only 3% of US and Canadian citizens above the age of 65 to 74 have dementia. 3% of Canadians and Americans between the ages of 65 and 74 have dementia. So we need to challenge ourselves by what? By being lifelong learners. What I mean by that is when we come to the edge of what we know, that we need to go beyond that. Because the edge of what we know is called the ego shell. The ego shell that keeps us bound into one small being, one small identity. And to reach beyond that is to think new thoughts or to think in a new way and to move out of that. Scientists say that the best way for seniors to expand their brains is not to reinforce what they already know, but to challenge long-held beliefs and assumptions and to view things from different perspectives, to stretch their brains and keep them healthy and flexible and strong. Studies actually show that older adults, listen to this, older adults are less likely to experience depression than young adults. And yet we're being told constantly that when you get old, depression comes along with that old age. And older adults need the same amount of sleep as young adults. So I mean, we're all being told that old adults need more sleep or old adults don't need as much sleep. We need just the same amount as ever. And as far as driving concerns are, hey, well, he's 74 years old and he's still driving. I don't know about that. Driving's not about age. Driving's about the ability to drive safely. And another thing, genes. We're told about genes and genetics. You know, if you've got certain genes, like my grandmother and my mother both got Alzheimer's or arthritis or heart disease or breast cancer, and so I probably can get. Genes don't determine health. 70% of how we age comes from lifestyle choices, regular walks, stretching, exercise. That builds muscles, reduces blood pressure, reduces anxiety, eliminates depression, and keeps us flexible, and intensifying and bringing more density to our bones. And we a lot of times people say, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and it's hard when you get older. When you get to be my age, it's a little harder to learn. But as we age, the branching of the brain nerve cells increases, and connections between distant brain areas strengthen. So we have opportunities. We have opportunities that we never had before. In fact, when we're young, we spend a lot of time working to raise our families, to make a living, to get ahead in the job, or whatever that is. When we get older, we realize that the important things in life are already ahead of us and not behind us. An uncle that I used to have, he's gone now, God bless him, beautiful man. He used to say that it's backwards, that life is backwards, that when people get old, they have free time to do things, but their youth is gone, and so they can't do things. They should have that freedom to do things and the money to do things when they're young, when they have the ability. But he bought into the old age lie, didn't he? And I tell you, I was with him a lot, and he definitely bought into the old age lie. At my age, you just can't do what you used to do. It's just hard on you. My God, just ache all over when I try to do something. And so he had bought that. He understood that. But in fact, when you get older, that's when you become free. You've graduated. You finally graduated the turmoils and the tests of life. And now you're free to enjoy the paradise that we're living in. We're living, at 92 years old, Harriet Thompson at 92 finished a marathon at 92 years old. She was a classically trained pianist who played 3 times at Carnegie Hall. So when she's running a marathon, she plays old piano pieces in her head to get through the marathon. She's not old at 92. She's running side by side with teenagers. Nola Oakes didn't complete her degree until she was 95 years old. Got her bachelor's degree at 95 years old, and then went on to get a master's at 98. Wesley Brown was a federal judge who practiced regularly until he died at the age of 104. He said, I'm not interested in how old I am. I'm interested in how good a job I do. Frances Wolfenden was a water skiing champion. She won multiple water skiing titles at the age of 83. 78-year Ernestine Shepard was the world's oldest female bodybuilder. She also works as a certified personal trainer. She wakes up at 3 o'clock every morning to lift weights. She can bench press over 150 pounds. And she runs every day. She logs 80 miles a week. And she says, I feel better now than I did at 40. She didn't buy the old age lie. Herbert McGriff started racing cars at the age of 61. And he became the oldest driver to win a NASCAR race. Even at 81, he finished 13th. Georgia Harwood celebrated her 100th birthday by jumping out of an airplane with 15 of her friends and family. And she followed it up the next morning by swimming with sharks. Yuichiro Miura climbed Mount Everest at age 80. Yale professor Becca Levy found that through her studies, how you think about getting old determines how you get old. She saw that negative attitudes about aging are boosted by the multi-billion-dollar ad campaign that's designed to make aging seem like illness. Now think about that for a minute. Multi-million ad campaign designed to make aging seem endless. You're not nearing the end of anything. Your life is starting over now, new and fresh today.
Don't buy the old age lie. The passing years will make us wise. Both young and old can make this world a kinder world together. The elders' time is on their side, but let's not wait to hit our stride. We'll start today to let love stay forever. Some see their parents as outdated, their wisdom unappreciated. But when the years grace our bodies, our gifts are given in our stories. Our spirits are fully alive, and our gratitude revived. We're ever young, refreshed, renewed, we fly. We don't have to buy the old age lie.
We don't have to buy the old age lie. We don't have to buy that. And if you've bought it, then unbuy it. Get rid of it. Take it back for a refund. In North America, we are a group of people who socially construct age ranges such as childhood, adolescence, young adults, middle adulthood, and old age. And attached to each of these age categories are behavioral expectations. And for old people, we're expected to be frail and helpless. That's the lie that's being told by the billion-dollar ad campaign, billions of dollars. Why? Because they want us to buy all of their junk and pile it into our systems to overcome the fact that we're falling apart. Now, I'm not saying that medications are not good. You know, medications came from God. But the stuff that's being advertised on television because you're getting old and it shows that these people all of a sudden are really spry again, I think 90% of that, maybe more, is placebo. They're selling a placebo. I really know that we have to stop buying that lie that we're getting old, that we're about to croak, that we have to slow down. Mary and I rented a house that was 2 stories, and our landlords didn't live there; they lived away. And finally, they said to us, "Well, we're moving back." Well, I take that back. It wasn't 2-story; it was a 1-story house. They said, "We're moving back because the place we're living now, the house has stairs, and we know that as we're getting older, we need to be in a place without stairs." What is that? What is that? If I say to myself, I can't climb a flight of stairs, then pretty soon I can't climb a flight of stairs. And then those muscles in my butt, in my legs, they weaken. And by golly, you know what? I can't climb a flight of stairs. But what if I just hold on to the handrail, sure, but climb a flight of stairs up and down 15 or 20 times a day? What would that do for me? What would that do for me? Research also has shown that the way older people feel inside is very different from the number of years. And that's a blessing, isn't it? Research shows that even people with multiple diseases report feeling younger than inside than their chronological age. For most people over 51, there's a difference of 2 decades, 20 years between how they feel and how old they actually are. And despite their illnesses, they almost all felt 20 years younger. Only 8% of participants in this old age study actually felt their chronological age. And I'm going to tell you a story in a few minutes that's going to show you how you can use that to your advantage. But meanwhile, if you say, "Oh, well, I'm up there now, I'm 74 years old," then you feel in your mind, what does that mean, 74 years old? It means nothing. It means nothing. When we're 74 years old, we're there for a purpose. We've spent a whole lifetime investigating and learning, having experiences and having our heart broken and our bones broken and being disappointed and disillusioned and learning how to overcome that and learning how to cope with failure and learning how to cope with sorrow and heartache and loss, and also learning how to create joy and how to appreciate the forced and children's laughter and how to appreciate our own sense of humor and how to appreciate great art. And we're growing as we never grew before. That part of us, that part of us that knows art, that part of us that knows art is our spiritual self awakening. I teach a meditation and I practice it every day where you go through the chakras of your body and then you go into your higher mind above the top of your head and you meditate being in the top of your head, above the top of your head. And when you do that, you're no longer your body. You're no longer aging. You're a kid again. You have no age. And then you look out you look at the bark of a tree. And then just seeing, instead of, oh, there's a tree. You look at the bark of a tree and the way the striations of the bark and the tones and the colors, and you look at it and you say, I could not paint that. I could not paint that picture. If anyone could paint that picture, it would be a bestseller. And you look at that tree and it's reaching to the sky. And all it's done for its entire life is reach for the light. That's all it's done. And it's gone through various stages until finally it got up to the top of the canopy. And now it's in the canopy or above, and it's what we call old age. Now, finally, it's in the light and it can enjoy the light. Isn't that you and me? Ellen Langer, a Harvard psychologist, decided to take the question of whether aging might be in the minds or was it only in the body. So she did a radical experiment in 1979. She created a retreat center and she got 8 men. So 8 men in their 70s stepped out of a van in front of a converted monastery in New Hampshire. They shuffled forward and a few of them were arthritically stooped and a couple had canes, and they passed through the door and entered a time warp. This was in 1979. Perry Como was crooning on an old vintage radio. On the television, Ed Sullivan was welcoming guests on a black and white TV. Everything inside, everything, including the books on the shelves and the magazines laying around, were designed to conjure up 1959. And the men didn't just reminisce about what things would like or were like at that time. There was a control group that did that. Let me segue away for a minute. She had a control group that also was in an old vintage place like that. But as they were looking around, they were talking about how it was back then. But this group that I'm talking about, they were living it. They were instructed to behave as though they were actually in 1959. While the control group lived through a similar environment, but didn't act as if it were a decade ago. They discussed historical events as though that was current news. And no provisions were made or acknowledged about their age. Nope, they carried their own luggage. They climbed up the stairs by themselves. No one treated them like they were old. Nothing. There were no mirrors, no modern age clothing, no photos except portraits of their much younger selves. Nothing like that that spoiled the illusion that they had just shaken off 22 years. A week later, both the control group and the experimental group showed improvements in physical strength, manual dexterity, gait, posture, perception, memory, cognition, taste, sensitivity, hearing, and vision. And a full 63% of the men who pretended to be 20 years older had better intelligence tests and scores at the end of the experience than they did at the beginning, compared with 44% in the control group, 63% compared to 44%. but let's keep in mind, the 63% people, those 63% people actually thought they were 20 years younger for a full week. And they got that high of score. The men who went back and didn't even pretend they were that old, they just kind of lived in that atmosphere, had a 44% score. Four independent volunteers who knew nothing at all about the study looked at the before and after pictures, the before and after pictures of the old guys that went through the experimental study, and said that these were independent people but weren't involved with the test, said that they thought that the guys looked 2 years younger in the photos afterwards than they did before. On the last day of the study, Langer wrote that the men who had started so frail just days before ended up playing impromptu game of touch football on the front lawn. When we believe that something will affect us in a particular way, it often does. That's how placebos work. Your own expectations and the expectations of others are powerful. And the expectations of our society are that cognitive and physical abilities will decline as we age. Don't buy that old age lie. You truly are as young as you think you are. You truly are.
Don't buy the old age lie. The passing years will make us wise. Both young and old can make this world a kinder world together. The elders' time is on their side, but let's not wait to hit our stride. We'll start today to let love stay forever. Some see their parents as outdated, their wisdom unappreciated. But when the years grace our bodies, our gifts are given in our stories. Our spirits are fully alive, and our gratitude revived. We're ever young, refreshed, renewed, we fly. We don't have to buy the old age lie. Some see their parents as outdated, their wisdom unappreciated. But when the years grace our bodies, our gifts are given in our stories. Our spirits are fully alive, and our gratitude revived. We're ever young, refreshed, renewed, we fly. We don't have to buy the old age lie. We don't have to buy the old age lie.
Tom Arnson. That's Tom Arnson.
That's me.
He wrote that song for this service. A few days ago, he found out what the service is going to be, and he wrote that song for this service. This guy is amazing. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Welcome.
And so as it says, our Q&A will start now. And Janet asked our first question, and mine's related to hers as well. So I'm not sure if it's one or two questions, but Janet says, where is the fountain of youth? And I ask, what is the fountain of youth?
I believe I found the fountain of youth. I believe I did. And I don't think Ponce de Leon was on the right track. He didn't have to sail around the world. The fountain of youth is in believing the truth rather than believing our beliefs. Believing the truth rather than believing our beliefs. Is it that there is a God? It isn't a guy in the sky. It isn't some man. It's the all-pervasive, benevolent, beautiful, flowing nature of the universe. Mr. Planck, who was a great physicist, said years ago, he was a physicist, he was a scientist, said years ago, this whole universe has a divine intelligence behind it. There is a divine intelligence. And when we stop, every time we have a belief about something, it limits us, it ties us up. And then because of that, we can't grow. It's like you plant a tomato plant, and then you put a bucket over it. It wouldn't grow at all because it's in the dark, but if it could grow, it could only grow as tall as the bucket. Our beliefs shadow us and they contain us. The fountain of youth is to imagine, to really imagine, what more could there be? What more could I be? What more could I do? What more could I have? How better could I serve? I wonder if I actually could sing like Tom Artson. Maybe I'll try. I'm to really reach out and challenge myself, and then to be choosing joy every day. That's the fountain of youth. To challenge myself and choose joy. Let my imagination carry me forward. That's the fountain of youth. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean asks, why does everyone I speak to about age feel like they're 25 in their heads, regardless of their physical age?
Well, that's a blessing. That really is a blessing. That's the blessing that's given us by Great Spirit, by Holy Spirit, to make sure that we don't age prematurely, that we always see ourselves much younger than our actual chronological age, so that we don't prematurely age. Because you see, even though the body may be 70 or 80 years old, the mind and the spirit are not 70 or 80 years old. The enthusiasm and the life energy is still at least 20 or more. Some people, then in their old age, that have been interviewed, said they feel like they're 17. So our minds and our spirits are still young as our body's getting older. Now the body will get older, and eventually the body will die. That's the way it's supposed to be, because we're supposed to move on from this physical shell into the next dimension, and that's the way it's supposed to be, and that's part of nature, and that's beautiful. But it's not okay for our spirits to be there. It's not okay for our spirits and our minds to also die, to also grow old and die. So as our bodies move forward and begin to age, our spirits move forward and begin to climb. So we become more highly spiritual, more awake. So yes, you do feel younger. I hope you feel much younger than your chronological age. And as long as you focus on that younger age and don't buy the old age lie, you will continue to do just fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And another question from Randy. What do you say to yourself to remind yourself that you can age beautifully and gracefully?
there are so many different affirmations, but one of the things I'd like for you to do is every time you come to one of those places where you say, well, at my age, I better not do that, is to say, I can do that. I can do that. Now, maybe I won't do it because there is a certain risk, but I can do that. The lady that I was talking about before, who is, I believe, in her 80s, who's bench pressing 150 pounds plus, people who are running marathons at the age of 83, they never said to themselves, I can't do it. But that doesn't mean they just went out and did it. They had to train. They had to convince their bodies as well as their minds, but they did it. So when you come to those places where I can't do that, do not allow those words to come into your mind. I can't do it. You damn well can do it. Will you do it? Maybe not. Maybe it isn't a good idea for you to do it unless you train more. Or maybe you do have a heart condition or something that at any age, at the age of 15, would suggest that you don't do it. But that doesn't have anything to do with your age. Your age is here. And so maybe you need an affirmation. I am whole, perfect, and complete today. I am whole, perfect, and complete today. I learned that from my dear friend, Peggy Bassett. I am whole, perfect, and complete today. I'm whole, perfect, and complete today. And if you will not let yourself be dissuaded by your age and say, yes, I can do it. Maybe I won't do it, but I can do it because I'm whole, perfect, and complete today. I think that'll help. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. And this is from Anonymous. And I wonder if what you just said is part of it. Bob, what are some of your personal practices to keep your mind and memory sharp?
Oh, thanks. I'll tell you, it's pretty easy for me. I am a student. I'm seen by many around the world as a spiritual master. That's very nice, and I'm humbled and flattered by that. But I'm a student. I'm more of a student today than I've ever been in my life. I am constantly learning, and I'm constantly reaching for more truth, for more information, for more wisdom. Every morning when I go out on the front porch to pick up the paper, I look at the sky and I look at the clouds and I look at the trees and I look at the space between us, and something happens inside of me. Something new occurs inside of me. I become more aware every day of space. And you've heard me say this before, pardon me for my repetitiveness, but we are 99.99999999999% space. Our bodies are space. Well, but you look at this body, that's obviously not space. No, what you're seeing are photons reflecting off of atoms. But it's space, it's just space. Well, then what's that space filled with? Not emptiness. No, it's filled with the presence of God, with the presence of Holy Spirit, of Great Spirit. The presence is here. The presence is inside of me. I am an incarnation. I am one of the pieces, one of the parts of the great universe. I am part of that. And I absolutely refuse to buy the old age lie. I'm young. I have a young body and a young mind. Now, I want to just add something to that I didn't say in my talk. There have been a lot of research done on how long the human cells actually can live. The human cells can actually live by countless scientific studies for 120 years. Mm-hmm. And what that means to me, that if you die before 120 years, don't tell people he died of old age, because you weren't old. Because the body is made to be able to live for 120 years. But it's our doubts, It's our scurrilous little opinions. It's the dark winds that blow through us called aging and fear of death, which is fear of death is nonsense because we're never going to die. We're going to shed this body, but we're never going to die. You know, a lot of animals shed their skins and move on. We're going to shed this one and move on. But if you die before 120, you died not from old age, but from an old age attitude. You got to challenge yourself. You got to do exercises, physical exercises. You can still, at any age, build muscle. You can, at any age, get your heart to be stronger and more resilient. By eating the right foods, all the organs of your bodies will still work well, as they always did. And you need to get plenty of sleep. Don't buy the old age lie. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Another question from Maureen is, do we age in the present moment?
No. In the present moment, nothing ages, nothing changes. That's a wonderful question. All of the universe, all of time, all of space, all of history, back to the Big Bang, everything forward to forever is out there. And we are right here. Here we are right here. And all of that funnels down into this instant, this moment. And in this moment, we're neither young nor old. We're not even body. In this moment, we are an eternal being. In this moment, all of history and all of future folds into us right here, right now. My affirmation, which I say daily, and this maybe is an answer also to the last question. I am right here, right now, and I am a good and worthy man. I am right here, right now, and I'm a good and worthy man. And as you're sitting there listening to me right now, and you're looking at your camera or you're looking at your monitor, would you recognize that you're right here, right now? And get out of your futuring and out of your past. The future is all fear of what might, could, should, ought to happen. The past is all regrets or memories, and some of them are beautiful memories, but it's all gone. It's all of it's done. You can't go back and change it. But right here, right now, this is where the pencil touches the page. This is the only place that God is. God is not in the future, and God is not in the past. Holy Spirit exists right here, right now. So if I say a prayer and I'm not saying it right here, right now, it's not a prayer. That's why Jesus said, you must pray knowing your prayers are answered, because it's right here, right now, that I'm creating that reality, not hoping for a reality in the future, creating that reality right here, right now, and beginning to feel the love and the power and the ecstasy of having accomplished that which I seek right here and right now. You are not aging. You are eternal. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Randy says, recent research has scientifically proven that those who have the most birthdays live the longest. And Janet said, Deepak Chopra said in one of his books that if we all learn to forgive, then our cells would wake up to life and we would live to be well past 100 years old.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you. He is absolutely right, because forgiveness and gratitude and acceptance and allowance, all are the same thing. And all of those are being right here, right now. Unforgiveness means I'm living in the past. Right here, right now. Live right here, right now. And you'll live forever.
Well, that's all for our questions today. Wow, some really great ones. And Bob, we so love you and appreciate you and the wisdom that you bring to us. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Shirley.